Hey Orbiters, Nick here with the Orbital Alliance YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to teach you some ways that you can make space your #1 hobby starting today with some very simple tips and methods that I've picked up in my journey. Let's jump right into the video. Well, hey there again, and welcome to today's video on the Orbital Alliance YouTube channel. My name is Nick. If you're brand new with us, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to tune in and watch this video. Hopefully you find yourself at home here and you're able to find something interesting in my other videos I have on the channel. With that being said, be sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring the little bell so that you don't miss any of the new content that comes out as it gets released. You'll get a little notification on your phone or on your device, whatever you use, that a new video has been posted. So be sure to subscribe and click the bell, and I hope that gives you more of a chance to be learning about space. So with that, today's video content, I'm going to probably chapter it out in the timeline below. I'll probably give some notes there and time codes so that you can skip around as you see fit. But I want to start from the beginning. Space is the biggest concept not only known to human beings, period. It's a really big hobby with a lot of different nooks and crannies that you can tuck yourself into. So there's really no one way to go about being a fan of space. And that's really what I am. I'm just a fan of space. And I haven't really talked much about myself on the channel yet. We've kind of been out and about doing things. So in today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about who I am and how I do things. And in a video coming up, you'll learn a little bit more about me. But today you'll get some snippets and bits and pieces as well. So I am not an astronomer. I'm not an astrophysicist, and I'm definitely not an aerospace engineer. I definitely am not that. I'm just a space fan. I actually have a degree in graphic arts, so I'm kind of nowhere near the engineering or science realm. However, my entire life, since I was very little, science has been sort of the realm that my brain thinks in. I tend to think very logically and to want to focus on the reasoning and the science behind stuff. It just makes sense to me. So, astronomy is so interesting to me, and space and space flight tends to be the one that I have gone for across my entire span of my life. So not being someone who's educated necessarily in space, I took a college and a high school astronomy class, but I don't actually have any formal space education. So I know that might discredit me a little bit, but I hope in a sense that makes me a little bit more real, because everything I've learned in my life about space has been because I've sought on my own accord, because I really genuinely want to learn about it. I have a heart and a passion for it. I'm not forcing it down my pipe and into my brain. I'm like actually going out to look for it myself. So I hope that today's video kind of replicates that process for you. So if you're looking for your way to get into the space world, to become a space fan, to make space your hobby, and you know nothing about it, you have no experience, this is the video for you, definitely, because that's where I came from. So let's wind the clocks back. I'm 31 years old in 2021. So that means in 1997, when I was 7 years old, I started my journey into space. I had a couple light the fire moments that sparked interest for me. One of which, the 20th anniversary special edition of Star Wars was re-released in theaters, and my dad said, "Hey, let's take the family and go do that." We went to go see Star Wars in the theater. I was terrified. I was absolutely panicked. I was a little kid. I thought this was gonna be some scary movie. I didn't even know what it was. I had no clue. And the picture they had in the newspaper, yes, a newspaper that my dad showed me, I just for some reason was like, I don't want to see that. I remember crying. And then my parents were like, "You'll be fine. Trust me." I came home from that night at the theater. I was like, I love that movie. It was amazing. It gave me a whole new way to look at what space is. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day I was drawing TIE fighters in first grade and giving them to my friends, because this was the coolest thing in that movie. And just, to see planets and the way that ships would navigate through space, it was definitely the thing that kind of gave me that initial ember. Additionally, my cousin, who's, 25, almost 30 years older than I am, brought his telescope over to my house, and we were able to look at the moon and Saturn in my backyard, and that totally blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And again, I was 7 years old. So these two things in tandem not only created an ember, but fanned the flame into existence that was like, everything I have to do, it has to be about space. I want to do space. And it wouldn't be until I was in high school that I actually got serious about truly studying and learning what it took, because I was like, my whole life as a kid and early teenager, I was like, man, I love space, but I actually don't know anything about it. I can't be the space guy and not know any information about it. I could just love it, but I wanted to learn some textbook stuff. So I found out there was an astronomy class in my high school that only had one semester opening. So I got into that one class, and believe it or not, that was the highest scoring grade I've ever had out of any class in any of my education at the end of it. And it didn't even really count towards anything. It was really just an elective. So it kind of proved to me in that moment that my heart belonged in space, and it was truly the thing that I enjoyed the most out of all my academia. I would go on to take another astronomy class in college just for fun. I fulfilled a science credit, but again, didn't build towards a degree by any means, but also scored, I think, my highest percentage class grade out of any course I took in my 4-year bachelor's degree. So when I wanted to actually gain some traction and learn some textbook stuff, I didn't really know where to start, except I found something very simple. And this is kind of your first step that you can take to get into astronomy or space, and that is to look at the Astronomy Picture of the Day, which is actually a formal NASA webpage that you can go to on the internet. The URL is here on the bottom of the screen. It's apod.nasa.gov. APOD standing for Astronomy Picture of the Day. Pretty easy to remember. It takes you to this super basic HTML webpage, and it's been the same way, I'm pretty sure, since like 1995. They really haven't updated this much since then. And I've been looking at this not every day, but for the most part, since about 2006, 2007, most days of the week. And honestly, this is probably the best place that you can start when trying to become a fan of space or make space your hobby. In order to be in the space realm, you have to know about space, and every day the picture changes. But it's kind of like those little like old school like rip off calendars where you just tear the page off and you look at something new the next day. It's kind of the same idea. You learn one little snippet after the other, and it's the daily accumulation of knowledge from this little cheap and free resource where you're learning about rockets, nebula, galaxies. Again, best part is that it's free, so you can't really lose. It's a great way to start, because if you look at it every day, it takes about 60 to 120 seconds to look at it, truly enjoy it, read the blurb, and move on. You're not wasting an hour. It's not like you like have to give up Netflix to, actually learn something about space that day. But after a month, after a year of looking at it every day, you've now learned about 365 different aspects of the space realm in astronomy. It's pretty awesome. And now you have this little bank growing in the back of your mind and in your heart. It's like, wow, I know more. I know a little bit more. My foundation is starting to solidify. And now you can start to learn about things that you find the most interesting, because maybe you don't really care about galaxies and nebulas that much. You want to learn more about rockets and how they work. And you saw a really cool picture about a space shuttle flight in the mid 2000s. And you're like, I want to learn more about that crew and crewed space flight. Now you just learned something, and now you're learning more because you're seeking more resources. So I think it's a cool starting point. It builds a foundation, and it's really easy. It's bite-sized. I don't think you'll be let down by the Astronomy Picture of the Day. So start there for sure. And then the next thing I would recommend doing when trying to find out how to make space your new hobby is to engage in social media. And now I know this is kind of like a touchy method of doing about it, and you definitely need to be old enough. If you're younger, make sure you have your parents, consent to be on social media or to engage with other people on social media. Be very careful, but social media is a great place to be learning about space in real time. And I engage with it every single day, particularly on Twitter, because people call it space Twitter, which is not any particular page on Twitter, but it's just sort of the culture. It describes the culture that is available. So the social media realm is actually a really great way to directly connect with all kinds of people and organizations that are, actually working on things in the space world. It suddenly brings it sort of to your front doorstep. You don't really need to feel like you're, hundreds of miles or thousands of miles away from these key locations or key people who are actually doing things like engineers or astronauts. They all sort of connect and tweet, interact, and you can sort of witness that by just simply creating an account following people and just watching it. And I do that every day, and it helps me grow as a space fan because I'm now current to the minute for when a new rocket is going up or when they're training astronauts. Today they're training on how to operate the safety components of a new module, or the next week one of this particular retired astronaut is releasing a new book. So now I'm going to pre-order that book so I can learn about that person's life and their learnings from being an astronaut. But let me tell you, the pace at which the space world is growing and increasing is just absolutely ruthless right now. And I think 2021 in particular has been, really difficult to keep up with, because now it's not just NASA and Roscosmos and ESA. It's 150 different rocket companies all trying to get their stuff off the ground, and there's all sorts of different people and figures and personalities that are getting involved, and now there's high stakes money getting thrown around. The stock market is in play. It makes it tough to want to be accurate 100% because you just can't. It's a losing game to start with, so just be careful. But it is a really great way to learn about what's happening today and what's happening in the next couple of weeks, months, years. So it's not as much of like a history lesson, let's look at the past and what we've done, here's the history book. It's more of like a current events page where it's like what's happening now, what's going to happen in the future. So I would highly recommend probably Twitter and Instagram, mostly for imagery on Instagram and text and up to date to the second information on Twitter. It's probably the best places to be. YouTube is also a really good area to get jumped into because there are other space YouTubers too that you could go watch and subscribe to that are doing a lot more content than I am, but giving different angles and different perspectives, even live streaming current rocket launches and big events that are happening. People like Everyday Astronaut, or if you're into more of the rocket science, Scott Manley. There's a whole boatload of people that you can subscribe to. So YouTube is also a great resource. For my third tip, I do want to encourage you guys to kind of take the technological side out of it and not just get immersed in, web pages, YouTube, social media. Those are great fast-paced ways to learn about space, and they can help you with that daily accumulation. But I want you to think a little more long-term with a more OG, old school format of learning about space, and that's just to go with picking up a book or 10 about space. You can pick up memoirs and biographies or autobiographies about retired astronauts or people who had worked in a former past space program like the Apollo era, Mercury. You take your pick. It's all up to you and what you want to learn from astrophysicists or someone who worked on a probe or a rover that is somewhere else in the solar system. There's all kinds of things to be learning about, and I think there's something to sort of playing the long game with a book. Currently I'm reading The Sky Below by Scott Parzynski. Really great book. I'm kind of early into it, but I get to learn about a shuttle era astronaut from NASA and his experience. And I could follow him on Twitter, and he's active on Twitter, but I'm not getting that word for word account directly from him that tells all the details. Even a tweet can't. If you were to tweet this, I don't know how many thousands of tweets it would take, and it wouldn't even read the same way. So there's something about picking up a book. Another one I can recommend highly for you is Chris Hadfield, the retired Canadian astronaut. He used to command the space station. He did 2 space shuttle missions and a Soyuz mission. He wrote a book several years ago called An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. It's probably the #1 space book I'd recommend for you. It's his actual account, kind of his journey from being a kid, getting interested in space, and then becoming an astronaut, and then going on actual missions. And he talks about what he learned and how you can apply it to your life and how he applied it to his own. So really applicable, and you don't need to know all the space jargon. He teaches you about some of that on the go. But I have some of those concepts from that book that actually apply to my daily life. Really cool, sort of tie it all together. Another one I just read is Spaceman by Mike Massimino. He's also a retired astronaut of the shuttle era. He did 2 shuttle missions to repair the Hubble Space Telescope. Very cool take on it, especially in an era when building the space station was kind of the spotlight. The Hubble missions were like highly specialized, and you're able to learn it from his perspective, how he was kind of just this kid from New York and who wanted to become an astronaut, and he had to forge his path there. Again, can't learn that from Twitter necessarily, or maybe a video that was abbreviated, but a book gives you the details, so don't miss the details. So anyway, to wrap things up here a little bit, let's recap sort of the 3 tips that you can take into your life starting today to become a space hobbyist or a space fan. And #1, was to look at the astronomy picture of the day on the internet. Number 2, engage in space social media, in particular space Twitter or space Instagram. And lastly, the third tip is to start reading space books. All of these things are free or really low cost. You don't have to go and take a college class or pay for schooling to get educated on this stuff. This is stuff that's available to you if you have a phone or computer, which at this point most of us do. Even if you don't, find a library in your community and you can get connected with most of those things either there for free, including the books. You can just check them out. You don't have to worry about spending any cash. And if you do all three of those things enough, that knowledge base within you is not only going to just be informative and helpful for your perspective on life, but it's actually going to help you be a teacher and help share that information with other people. And other people can have the same wonder and excitement about space that you had. Pretty cool thing. So there you have it. Hopefully those 3 tips help you find your way in the space world. And remember, that's just a starting point. You can pick your journey, where you want to go. Do you want to learn about deep space exploration and life on other planets? Do you want to learn about training for astronauts? Do you want to learn how to build rockets? Do you want to learn about the science and the research that gets done on the space station? Entirely up to you. Really, really cool. It's kind of the hobby of hobbies, in my opinion. And it was lying dormant for a while, but let me tell you, I think the space world is just starting to awaken. And in the next 5, 10, 15 years is going to take over the conversations that are happening here on Earth in so many ways, because everything we're doing in space is going to impact how we do things here, whether we like it or not. And quite frankly, I'm excited about that. I think that's super cool. I'm not really as scared about that as I am like, let's figure out how to do that right. So I'm going to wrap up today's video by thanking you so much for watching this whole video. If you've made it all the way this deep into it, thank you so much. I know this was a long rant, but I do hope that you found this information helpful, even in the smallest degree. I would love it if you would stick around by subscribing to the channel, ringing the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos that come out. You'll get notified when they do. Hopefully you guys are able to walk away a little bit smarter about space. That's the goal. And if you guys want to learn about something specific, please let me know in the comments. I hope to make content to specifically support the curiosity that you guys have about space and astrophotography or whatever. Let me know what you want to learn about. So with that, have a fantastic day, night, weekend, wherever you are, and I will see you guys all on the other side.